Shocking new low when it comes to America's fentanyl crisis. A dad says his 10-year-old baby almost died after accidentally eating fentanyl in a popular park in San Francisco. The baby playing in the grass and putting leaves in his mouth when the deadly drug left the child struggling to breathe until fast-thinking paramedics saved his life by using Narcan. The father is speaking out about what happened, saying, quote, "It's not just dealers and people you don't know who are impacted by this. It's tipping over into the broader populace. And it feels like it needs that kind of COVID-like attention, and it doesn't seem like it's getting that." And even woke San Francisco officials are horrified, one tweeting, "Hopefully this will serve as a wake-up call to those who are content with our status quo response to this crisis. Patrols will be stepped up in the area." So, Judge, the interesting thing that jumped out at me at that with the father is he's saying, look, the government knows how to respond to a health crisis. We just saw it with COVID. Why aren't they doing the same for the fentanyl crisis with how many people are overdosing?
Well, they're not doing it because one of the reasons is that the Democrats don't take it seriously. 95% of the fentanyl that comes into this country is coming through the southern border. And we sound like a broken record when we keep talking about it over and over and over again. And it's no surprise that it's going to be found in a myriad of places. I mean, kind of crazy in a park, in leaves, and the child was eating grass. I think the child was with a babysitter or something. But yeah, now you can buy Narcan in vending machines, which is a sad commentary on the state of this society. But I want to bring it closer to New York for a second, if I can. You know, as if Kathy Hochul isn't enough of a villain. I mean, not following through on the nursing home deaths that she said she would, not even discussing the issue of cashless bail, denying that crime is the #1 problem for New Yorkers in this country. She's either an idiot or in denial. There was a law that was, or a bill that was passed by the, in Albany in New York, Democrats, Republicans, New York City, Long Island, all over the state. They wanted to have a board, a fentanyl board, to discuss the impact of fentanyl in New York, how to deal with it, what's the best way to fight it. She would not sign the bill. A Democrat for whom Joe Biden came and campaigned.
Why not?
She didn't have enough money for the travel and expenses for this group that was simply a sounding board that was going to put together a report. The woman who spent billions on a football field where her husband had the concessions and spent billions on something else. We pay double the price of COVID tests than anyone else in the country. She doesn't have money for it. The Democrats are in denial. And this is going to kill us, this fentanyl.
Yeah, the bill was supposed to create a 16-member fentanyl abuse and overdose prevention task force. Jesse.
This happened in Nancy Pelosi's district. Did Nancy put out a statement about this? I haven't seen it. I hope I'm wrong. I hope she put out a big, beefy statement because she's always talking about how much she cares about the kids. She says her whole career is about taking care of the children. Well, the children are dying in her district from fentanyl that comes in from China. All Joe Biden has to do is crack down on the Chinese. It's a police state. You don't think they know what's going on and who's cooking up these synthetics and shipping them to Mexico? They can look in everyone's phones. They know where everyone's going all over the country. We've seen it happen in real time. You're saying they're unaware of the people that are in these labs, shipping it out to Mexico? And then what about the Mexicans? Yeah. Joe can't get on the phone with Obrador and say, right now we're in the big trade war with corn. Why can't we just throw some tariffs up and go to the USMCA and say, make this a part of the leverage? There's so many tools out there that we could be using, and we're just being a tool instead.
Yeah, you know, Geraldo, the president had a 3-hour conversation with the Chinese president, I believe it was 2 weeks ago, and the readout didn't mention the fentanyl crisis.
Oh, I think that's awful. If true, Katie, I think that's terrible. Fentanyl should be front of mind, and I don't want people to take this the wrong way, but I think that enforcement, interdiction, all those things, the pressure, trade, everything, every weapon should be employed that can be employed. This is 107,000 Americans died of fentanyl overdoses last year. 107,000, that's twice Vietnam. So it's awful. But we can't wring our hands and wish for a different world. I would like to see in every big city, in every problematic neighborhood, a vending machine for Narcan, where you go in with a very nominal cost, 10 cents, 25 cents, like an old, payphone. Get your Narcan it's awful. You want them to stop using it. They're not stopping using it. At least Narcan can save their lives.
Saves lives.
And I think that should be our priority, saving lives. And these Narcan vending machines in hard-hit areas, like in my state, along the Ohio River, these communities, whole communities, wiped out. Every single CVS should have a Narcan vending machine.
Greg.
Okay, so we do know that a package the size of your fist can kill millions of people, right? Because it's so powerful, so tiny. That's why, even though it's coming over the border, there's not much you can do about it. You can throw it over a fence. You can slip it through a slat. So what you should be doing is you should be doing what I think, a lot of Republicans are starting to come around to: declare war on cartels. We went into Grenada for less. We can go and we could bomb, and Mexico can't do crap about it. And we could actually tell the cartels ahead of time what we're doing. Meanwhile, you got to ease the restrictions on prescription opioids so the casual user lives another day, because it's not the junkies who are dying. The junkies know what they're doing. They know what they're getting. They're experts at it. It's the casual person, the person whose prescriptions ran out, or the college kid that bought Coke, at a party, and it was part of the cocaine or part of the Xanax, or maybe it was just a street opioid. And they die. It's the casual user that dies. This, to me, mirrors the AIDS crisis of the 80s. A lot of people were uninterested in the disease because they weren't themselves the target. It doesn't matter until it hits home, and then that kind of jars your concerns loose. And in this case, baby swallows fentanyl. That's hitting home, right? Yeah. So I think that the government maybe cynically didn't care if junkies die. They don't care. What are junkies are on the street? They're disgusting, whatever. So they didn't care. Well, it's not junkies that are dying. It's people who just by the luck of the draw, Russian roulette, took the wrong thing, or a baby on the ground, eating it off the floor or the grass. Anyway.
Cartels are the problem.
Hi, everyone. I'm Brian Kilmeade. I want you to do me a favor. I want you to click to subscribe to the Fox News YouTube page. This is the only way that I know for sure that you're not going to miss any great commentary, any great news bites, any great interviews coming your way on Fox. You can get it all here on YouTube. So subscribe right now.